Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second half of the season in the Radical Esports Cup here on iRacing. It's time for round 7 of our 2100 GMT splits here of the iRacing Radical Esports Cup, and it is time for Circuit Zolder. A circuit opened in 1963, 62 years ago, and one steeped in history as well, with its very unusual and unique chicanes these days. They will provide, hopefully, the overtakes that we're looking for here tonight. Myself, Ian Leary, Ron Mounds will take you through the action with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras, as always, on these Friday nights. Good to be alongside you for this one, Ron. It is an unusual circuit, as I say, but we're moving into the second half of the season now. I've got to say, moving into a couple of circuits with similar characteristics coming up after this. This one's very much an outlier, Zolder. I don't think there's any circuit actually on any calendar anywhere in the world really quite like this circuit.
Yeah, and I will say, though, Ewan, we're getting into the point here with the second half of this Radical Esports Cup official season, where from here all the way through to the start of September, when we round off this championship of the Hockenheim Ring, we are going to be running at exclusively Formula One tracks. And these SR10s can usually put on a good show. We've already seen it thus far this season at the many wonderful circuits we've been to, including last time at the Nürburgring, that saw an absolutely brilliant race there. So I have a feeling that here at Zolder, despite this track being a little bit goofy, some may say, I still think we're going to put on a really good race at this really unique racetrack.
It is a little bit goofy. It's probably a good word to use. James Barry is the current championship leader, and that is a big, big lead he's starting to accumulate now. He's told us again and again that lead doesn't matter, and it's all going to come back and get close towards the end, but I'm starting to believe him less and less, to be honest. After 6 rounds, he leads by 322 points ahead of Paki Caruso and Heinz Braun. Then Sully Ratton and George Gonzaga round out the top 5, a few points further back to Havard Gullikson. Sebastian Lipp a further 20 points back. Anthony Kernan, Rafa Blanco, Christoph Lipp round out the top 10. I don't know about you, Ron, what you've been thinking throughout the season, actually, on James Barry's gap, but for me, I've never really believed him, to be honest, that the championship lead doesn't matter and it's all going to come back. I've seen him as the clear championship leader throughout this season, I've got to say, and this is a distillation of that, isn't it? 322 points.
You know, I will say, and this is honest, I hope James Barry does not take offense to this. For as long as I've been covering racing here, I've gotten the opportunity to talk to James Barry a lot, both in these broadcasts and interviews and outside them, just talking about racing and all that stuff. I will say this with all due respect, James Barry at certain points in time definitely knows how to wear that poker face. He's a quick driver. He's definitely going into the second half of the season with a bit of caution. He doesn't want kind of chickens before they hatch, but James Barry certainly with a massive gap there. And you look through the top 10, a rather interesting selection of many racers, past champions, former champions, really littering the entirety of the top 10. But James Barry, probably one of the top here in the Radical Esports Cup world, did well last season in the 2024 European Radical Sim Racing Championship and has won 4 championships in the past year in these officials. So James Barry, certainly a top driver and clearly proving by the fact he has a 300-point gap.
Yeah, it's good to know he's been lying to me for weeks.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't
that
matter.
pathological liar.
He's just playing the game, as you say. He's just playing the game. There are the track conditions, by the way. It's again another morning race, 8:45 in the morning this time. 21 degrees down on the track as we get into qualifying. The race is going to start at about 9, just before 9, on the 2nd of August, which is tomorrow in real life. So there you go. That's what we're dealing with here today. Again, temperature really, for a summer season where actually, because iRacing is so good now with the fluctuations of temperatures where, you know, in the winter, you really don't have to worry about it at all. Certainly Northern Hemisphere winter, you don't have to worry about it at all. And then when it gets to summer up here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is quite hot generally. A lot of morning races I've noticed this season, and so the actual tyre temperature and actually having to manage that tyre temperature over the course of a summer's race hasn't really been a factor in the summer season. We're now in August, and I can't really remember a race where we've ever said at the start of the race, well, maybe they'll have to be worried about the tyre temperatures. Maybe Thruxton, I remember it being a little bit on the high side, but I don't think we've even touched 40 degrees Celsius here this season, which is highly unusual for a season that's taken place so far in June, July, and now August.
Yeah, and I will say last week at the Nürburgring, I was talking a little bit about tire temperatures, but that's mainly down to the fact that the opening sector of the Nürburgring, especially at the start of these races, and a reminder, folks, standing starts here in the Radical Esports Cup, so these drivers won't have any sort of opportunity to build up tire or brake temperature. They just need to ace it off the line and gun it in through the first lap to try and get off to as good of a start as they can, which is certainly important in these shorter races. But I remember last week we were a little bit worried about tire temperature, but that was mainly on the cold end because that track wasn't the hottest in the world last time. I think temperatures were teetering around the high 60s, low 70s Fahrenheit. So I think we kind of have the same sort of deal going on right now in these racers, not having to worry about overheating tires, even so at a racetrack like this, because let's face it, in these tires really going to get a pummeling at this track that does not have a lot when it comes to just straight lines.
No, not really. Very straight braking zones here, though. Not particularly long corners, which will be an advantage. But yeah, not too many straights either. A good evening and a good afternoon, wherever you're watching around the world, to this broadcast here. Good to have you along for another round of the Radical Esports Cup. We're back every week, by the way, at 2100 GMT here on a Friday night, covering these Radicals. So good to have you along for this round, the SR10s. And I want you to get an answer from you on a question we've had in YouTube chat from Brian Jennings, who is asking about how the Radical is to drive on iRacing, presuming he's talking about the Radical SR10 that we're using here in this series, because he's wanted to check it out. What would you describe this car as? You've got much more experience with this car than me. What would you describe it as to someone who's not driven it before?
Well, I'll tell you what, as I've gotten the opportunity to cover the Radical Esports Cup, formerly known as the Radical Racing Challenge, that's how long I've been doing the broadcast here this year. It's coming up to 12 seasons now at this point, since March of 2023. I've gotten the opportunity to drive this car across many seasons, across many racetracks, many a condition as well, including participating in some of these broadcasted top split races as well. And I can tell you that the Radical SR10, it can be a little bit difficult to try and fully tame, so to speak. You definitely need the love and care. You need to handle this car with kit gloves, so to speak. It feels like a GTP car to a certain extent. Certainly the GTP cars are a little bit quicker, have a little bit more power to them, but these cars are sneakishly fast. There are some tracks that we visit where these cars are tracking right about the same time, sometimes even quicker than GT3 cars. So these SR10s, really fun once you get the hang of things, as my longtime colleague on these broadcasts and a RaceSpotTV colleague, Mr. Jair Gregory, has always said. Master of the SR10 can make you good in just about anything that you drive. And looking through this grid that we have, many of these racers have used the skills that they've gotten from these SR10s to move on into other things. I've seen James Berry do very well in Formula 1600 competition, both in officials and in other leagues. I've seen other drivers master these SR10s and do well in LMP3s. These are just really fun cars. You just need to find that groove. Once you settle into that groove, you can really have a heck of a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point about making you a better driver, by the way, for any car is a really valid one as well. But we'll maybe get into that. If it quietens down in the race, let's focus, though, on the starting grid. Ready for this one? And it's an racing team 1-2 with Christophe Lipp and James Barry. Peter Evigny with a good qualifying there up to third, and Paki Caruso with George Gonzaga and Goodenhag rounding out row 3. Then you go to over half a second off pole, or just inside of it, sorry, for Felix Simoz. Then over half a second behind for Andre Castro. Might be a bit disappointed with 8th place. Maurizio Scotti Diuccio will be in 9th ahead of Kjell Larsen with Ian Bertolucci, and Kim-Andre Björklund sharing row 6. He's over a second off pole. Jarek Dunkovic, Adrian Rosteng and Sebastian Lipp is as well. Only 15 drivers in this field here today. Not sure entirely what I put that down to, whether it's people not enjoying this track necessarily, but everybody who got into this session at least did set a lap time there. So worth noting who's here, especially when you're looking at the championship standings, actually. Worth noting who's here, especially in these better strength of field races. James Barry, of course, very much is the championship leader. We can see that. Paki Caruso is as well, although he's back in the pack just a little bit. And for this one on row 2, so back in the pack, he's not that far behind. But Heinz Braun not here, for example, Radzanen as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who slips back and who jumps forward as the lights go out here from Zolder. We are racing in the Radical Esports Cup, and it's a very clean and single file start into turn 1 for the two teammates. Christophe Lipp versus James Barry through turn 1, and it's single file. Peter Evigny just follows them as well through the opening sector. Next in line, Paki Caruso, then Gordon Hogg, who rounds out the final of the top 5 positions. Now in towards the right-hander. This is turn 4. Need a good run out of here to get the back straight on the way towards the first of our chicane, the climb chicane. Now into the inside line for one of the drivers in the background. That's Andre Castro. Inside of, look at that, of Gordon Haag. There's a bit of contact, bit of sliding in the background as well. But Andre Castro gets up to 5th, and it's Felix Simoes who goes backwards. Gordon Haag as well, as they go through that first chicane, showing how difficult it is to race side by side through there.
Yeah, bad start and bad run through that turn 5 chicane. That section, that really only single file. It may feel like a good overtaking opportunity, doubly so considering you're having to drop the anchors and slam on the brakes in there. But there's only so much you can do in a single file lane with curbs that will very likely screw up your day, screw up your car, and leave you with a little bit of a backache as you leave this track. We'll say Ian Bertolucci has ran into some difficulties in the number 12 car. He's towed back to pit lane. Your last place of the cars out there on the racetrack right now is Maurizio Scotty DeLuca. I think had a moment heading down into that chicane. Yeah, you can see contact being made with himself on the 14 of Jared Dunkovic, and more drama going on. That right there was a 12. Bertolucci, I think, had major damage. Yeah, you can see as that front clip of that SR10 pops off like a misshapen Lego. So we've had some drama up at the front. That's Peter Ivani dropping down like a stone. He had a moment through 1.
And he rejoins right into a 3-wide moment there as they go down towards turn 2 as well. That was close. Here comes Cattell Larson on the outside line. He's going to lose space out there. And Peter Ivany will get that place back again. In the background, Felix Simoes going to try and win some of the places back. This is where he had a poor run, by the way, out of the Klein chicane first time round. And he's not going to win any places back this time round. They'll skip over that chicane. Only Ian Bertolucci has fallen afoul, unfortunately, of this opening lap. We have seen Maurizio Scotty DiUccio drop down the field to 14th, but other than that, pretty much everybody getting through cleanly in what is admittedly a smaller field than maybe what we've seen in some rounds gone by.
Yeah, I will say, though, there was actually 2 splits for this. Yeah, the bottom split that we do not cover here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network had 13 drivers, and this one at 15. So we still had a pretty okay participation heading into this top split broadcasted race. Zandvoort, a track that doesn't really get a whole lot of views here in this series. First time I've seen it in my entire time covering this championship, as we had a move between the 2 Sim Racing Norway teammates, veterans of these SR10s. Kim Andre and Bjorklund getting past Gordon Haag. That's a move for the final spot inside the top 5. Looks like they'll be able to break through into their own little battle, but they got cars behind. Look at that train of drivers just following in suit. Ivany running a little bit wide through turn number 1. This game could be said about Kettle Larson, who's now dropping down. He's lost out on a spot to the 3-car Felix Simoes, and the 7, another series veteran of George Gonzaga. Many veterans, many newcomers here in this series as well that I haven't seen in past weeks during this championship. I will say, though, Ewan, touching on a storyline that we've kept tabs on throughout the first half of the season, and we will certainly touch on throughout the second. Christoph Lipp holding on to the race lead right now. He was your winner last time out at the Nürburgring. Has the opportunity to do something that nobody has done thus far in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races here for Season 3 of 2025, and that is be a multi-time winner here in the Radical Esports Cup. We've had 6 winners in 6 races. Christoph and his brother Sebastian taking the first race of the season and the, as of right now, last race of the season last week for week 6 at the Nürburgring. But Lipp holding on to that lead right now and trying to pull a gap between himself and James Berry, who has lost touch a little bit, now falling into the crutches of Paki Caruso in 3rd.
I'm presuming, I don't actually know this because I haven't been here for as much of this season I would have liked, but has James Barry won one this season? Yeah, I'm going to guess he has, because he's legal.
Consistency is king. He has not. I mean, obviously, though, as you can see, a moment for Peter Ivany losing it, heading out of the chicane. But no, he has yet to win a race thus far this season, has James Berry. He's certainly gotten close, has many second-place finishes up to this point in the season. Proving that consistency is king is Berry. Hasn't gone to victory lane yet.
No, very good point. So Barry could deny him here, but you know, as I'm saying that, I'm sort of thinking, well, what's the point? Because look at the gap he's got already. Christoph Lipp, 1.4 seconds over James Barry. Then you've got Paki Caruso rounding off the podium. Andre Castro, who really will be disappointed with that qualifying because he's clearly quick. He's got up to 4th place already, and he's trying to chase down those guys in front. On the bottom of your screen, we've had a lot of action going on, as you mentioned and commented. Peter Ivany going for that spin out of the final corner, but all sorts of other things going on as well. We saw even the lap before, going across the Klein chicane. And in the background there, that's Sebastian Lip getting the line wrong a little bit. And that's Adrian Rostang and Jarek Dunkovic right in behind as well. So the midfield and towards the back end of the field is where the battling really is happening, as the leaders themselves get a bit more spaced out.
Yeah, it looks like the battle, at least up towards the front of the field, is very much on, though, between James Berry and Packy Caruso. About 2/3 of a second separate those two racers as they head their way onto the start-finish straightaway. Look at James Berry trying to give that shuffle as he heads his way out of the final turn onto that start-finish straightaway, trying to break that draft as much as he can. I talked about the characteristics of these SR10s a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, but one of the main characteristics with these SR10s has got to be the draft. They are some of the strongest drafting cars on the road side of things when it comes to cars on iRacing. Obviously, once you get off into the oval stuff, that's a whole different league. But here on the road courses, the SR10 is probably up there with the likes of the Spec Racer Fords and the Formula Vs in terms of being the biggest drafters on iRacing. These cars punch a massive hole in the air, and once you get that draft, you can really just suction up to the back of the car right in front of you like it's going out of style. That's part of the reason why Caruso is still handing the back of James Berry. That's also part of the reason why it seems like Christoph Lipp is building and building time as James Berry keeps bleeding it away. Now nearly 2 seconds between the two teammates in P1 and P2 really shows you that once you lose the draft, it basically game over.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, let's see how this continues on here as Caruso and Barry continue to race away for second. It looks like it is only going to be a fight for second as well, as Caruso just has a peek to the inside, can't go through. Castro again looking and lurking in the background. It's actually keeping pace with Christoph Lipp. I'll just tell you the times as they go over the line this time round. Another great lap from Lipp, 1:23.7. Would have been his best lap of the race if he hadn't gotten an off track throughout it. But Castro's matching. He's the only other driver in the 1:23s. That was his personal best lap time last time round, but the only other driver other than Lipp to be in the 1:23s last time round. Again, Castro going to be kicking himself a little bit that he didn't qualify better, because he's clearly got some good speed in that car.
Yeah, it certainly does. And looking through this field, a very talented pack of racers here on this 2100 GMT broadcast and race here for this week. And looking to keep that strong throughout the rest of this season here for Season 3. We'll say the stretch of races we have been as of recent here, Ewan, has come in the midst of a small little break for the radical sim racing world in reference to the European and America's Championship and the small little summer break, as we like to call it right now. The America's Championship set to return in about 3 weeks on the European Championship returning, I believe, in 2 weeks' time. So we have seen some of these racers that we usually see compete for the league championships really running well in these officials, still keeping their skills sharp in these SR10s, and many of the drivers that you see at multi-season, multi-year veterans when it comes to these SR10s as well. I mentioned him last week, and I wasn't going to mention him again just for the simple sake that the commentator's curse really came down on Felix Samoas badly last week. But Samoas, a driver I've been covering in these SR10s for pretty much as long as I've been covering SR10 racing, period. Very good racers in this race.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a bit of defending there as well from Barry on the way towards turn number 1. And saw that from that angle, and Caruso's having another look, this time at turn 2. And Castro now very much a part of this fight. Now I think that we settled down a little bit here. We're in the middle third of the race now that 6 laps are completed. We're ticking along very quickly. We're just going to start to see what happens when everyone's a bit more settled, and there are, I believe anyway, less overtaking opportunities than where there otherwise is at the beginning of the race. So we'll see it here with Caruso, but I reckon he's quicker than Barry, and Castro's certainly quicker than both of them. How easy or difficult is he going to find this, though? Because Zolder, in my experience anyway, is one of those circuits where it can be very tricky to make a pass, and there's an easy one. Caruso hits the back of Barry, and Castro has to avoid. That was a self-made incident, it looks like, for Packy Caruso. He just hit the back of James Barry and went into a spin.
Yeah, and doubly so. That section of the racetrack, very easy to lose control of the rear end. One thing that I forgot to raise a little bit earlier on, the aero sensitivity of these SR10s. If that front splitter gets a little bit screwed up in relationship to the ground, you are going to spin around like a top. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on there for Packy Caruso to spin out of a surefire podium, drop down like a stone. He now finds himself in P5. Would have briefly jumped back up to P4 again, because Kim Andre and Björklund had a huge huge sideways snap, hang out of the turn a couple of moments afterwards. But let's take a look at this here as we run on board. There you can see the moment from Caruso. Andre Castro, a little bit of a tap to the front end of that 8 happens to the 1 of Castro. Thankfully, though, nothing major on the front of that 1 car, I believe. Still slotted in 3rd and now has about a second gap between himself and James Berry. Just right barely in that slipstream. If he loses out on a bit more time, may start to see James Berry fall away, but Caruso losing it, looping it around like a top. Very easy mistake to make, to be sure, but a heart-wrenching one regardless.
This is earlier on in the race. Don't forget, Peter Ivany getting on the power too early out of the final corner and going for a big spin. He actually did clip the wall there, but he's still going. Ian Bertolucci so far the only retirement from the first half of this race, which is nearly complete in its entirety actually. Caruso's picked himself back up again and he's still 5th ahead of Kim-Andre Bjorklund, or behind him rather. He's ahead though of Gordon Hogg in 6th. For flash of the lights, Caruso's going to be impatient here. He's been up the order, I don't think. He's been pressuring those up front, and now he's looking to get back to those positions again. He looks down to the outside of Bjorklund here. Very close. So close to contact on the way to this final chicane, but outside the first point gives you the inside the second. Oh no! He's up into the grass and he very nearly came on and hit Bjorklund there, but he gets away with it. Caruso, though, loses another place.
I'll tell you what, though, that number 11 car of Kim-Andre Bjorklund has been handling like a trash bag full of lasagna, getting thrown down a flight of stairs. He's been wide, either having an understeer moment or an oversteer moment through just about every single corner over the past couple of laps. I saw him as we cut to those replays a couple of moments ago, heading his way through the turn 5 Klein chicane. He hit the curb badly. That rear end was bouncing. It was bouncing around like a bucking Bronco, that car was. So frankly, Kim-Andre Bjorklund, the fact he didn't lose out on spot to Caruso is an absolute miracle. Caruso, though, going for that move down into the final chicane. I don't care who you are, that is not going to be an overtake that works. The chicanes around here, you basically have to go through there, follow the leader, so to speak, have a train effect going on, and then try and go for the moves in some of the other turns. The chicanes here, just about as deadly as you could possibly get when it comes to the wide, wacky world of chicanes.
Absolutely. Circuit's got plenty of them, that's for sure. Plenty of candidates. As we split our attention across 2 different battles at the moment. Larson at the head of a very big one for 10th place, going all the way down, involving 5 drivers actually, right the way back to Riccio Scotti Di Uccio on the back end of the field. At the top of your screen, Caruso tries to get past Gordon Hogg through the final couple of corners, but it's not really possible through there to go much side by side. And the 5 down the bottom as well, stay single file into the final chicane as well. 9 laps now complete. We're over halfway in this race, and it's been absolute domination from Christoph Lipp, but the racing behind is very, very close. In the background, Sebastian Lipp just on the back of Felix Simoes on the way towards turn 2. Is he trying to make a move? No, he's not. So again, lots of close battles, not many overtakes at the moment.
Yeah, I think these racers are trying to get to the end of this race. I think usually here in the Esports Cup, oh, we have 10 laps on the board. Probably going to see that white flag here in a couple of moments' time. Now, we've still got until lap 17 when we can worry about that. For now, these racers still trying to keep it on the road. One driver didn't, though. I could see that trail of gravel heading out of the turn 5 chicane, which is probably the biggest choke point of the entirety of this circuit. Very easy to lose it heading off through there. As we jump back to this battle involving Felix Simoes and Sebastian Lipp, there's a battle for 8th at the moment. These two losing touch of the cars in front. There was a train of SR10s running all throughout the mid-pack. As it stands right now, because of some chicanery going on and not just the ones heading off through turn number 5, we have seen it break up a little bit. We still got the battles going on. Here's Maurizio Scotti Di Uccio as we follow him in the number 9 car, currently slotted in lucky number P13. It's got a little bit of a pack that he's in the midst of right now, a sandwich, if you would, between Jared Dunkovic and Peter Ivany, who has really gotten him stuff back up and underneath him. That number 10 car in the early stages was not handling well at all. Thankfully, though, he's gotten it back on the straight and narrow, still running last of the cars out there on the racetrack, but certainly with 4 cars within striking distance, not terribly far up in front. If he keep it clean, he can definitely gain some more.
Oh, side by side, Caruso on the inside of Hogg, and that was aggressive. Not too much space being given on the outside there. Should Gordon Hogg have wanted to run it round the outside, and Paki Caruso is into the top 5 again. He's 2nd place in the standings coming into today, by the way, into this 2100 GMT broadcasted split. 322 points behind James Barry in this race. That is a remarkable distance, by the way, to actually be behind, as Jared Dunkovic has his own trouble further down the field. He's back in the top 5, but that was aggressive on Gordon Hagen. He's running out of time, really, to catch and have another go at Kim-Andre Bjorklund ahead.
As we take a look at a replay to see that moment from Caruso. Look at that, the dive down into turn number 4. Don't usually see a driver go for an overtake like that. That's part of the reason it's usually going to end at least one person taking a trip off through the gravel. Ends well for the both of them. They're still out there on the racetrack running in P5 and P6. Now Caruso's got the real test on his hands. The gap between himself and Kim-Andre Bjorklund, he's not picking up the draft, but one good thing that he's got in his back pocket is the fact that Kim-Andre Bjorklund is not really catching up to Andre Castro either. So as much as the number 8 doesn't have any sort of draft assistance, the 11th doesn't either. So Kim-Andre Bjorklund, if he can still keep that car on the road, I think he may be in an okay spot to finish in P4. But if we saw the handling, if he still has a handling like we saw not terribly long ago, them sliding his way off through the turns, getting really flirtatious with the gravel traps, I think we may end up seeing Caruso make up another spot. The only thing that may potentially save Kim-Andre Bjorklund, if that is the case, is his own teammate of Gordon Haug right behind, still within striking distance of Caruso.
There is Christoph Lipp leading this race by 4.5 seconds, and not only would he become the first driver to go back-to-back in races this season, and season 3 of 2025, even winning 2 races at all hasn't been done yet. So yeah, it's been a rotating cast of winners. Be good to see Christoph Lipp do it back-to-back though, and finally that record can finally be broken. That's a bit wide from Felix Simoes down towards the braking zone. And look at this, Sebastian Lipp now. He gets alongside immediately out of the hairpin of turn 8. Outside for the first part of the chicane. Gives him the inside the final corner though. And that's exactly what he's got. A great bit of movement, although it was a bit messy. Bit of grass kicked up. Sebastian Lipp gets through.
You know, side by side heading off through that slow version of the final chicane usually doesn't work, but here we go. A dive from Felix Simoes down into turn number 1. Just a small little exploration there. Lipp running a little bit wide off the curb out of the turn, but these two drivers still lock steady in a very close fight as it stands right now. Some of Radical's best here on the iRacing platform, duking it out for P8. Sebastian Lipp got the season kicked off in style at the Red Bull Ring with the victory, but ever since then he hasn't gone back to victory lane here in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races. Simoes nearly thought about going for a move off into turn number 5, and he can see why that doesn't really work out too well. The curb wax really screwing up Felix Simoes. In that small little blip, he managed to lose out on a single second. I'm not sure what the curbs heading off through there are entirely made out of, but it is not meshing well with these SR10s. It's like a clump of sodium getting dunked into a bucket of water.
Oh, Sebastian Lipp may have had trouble there. That was a bit of smoke, and he's lost a place to Simoes. But yeah, those chicanes are super difficult, especially that Klein chicane there at the back straight. Really, really difficult because of those curves that bounce you around all over the place. And very easy to get a slowdown through there as well, which costs you time all the way down the other side of the hill towards the next chicane, which is a real feature of this circuit. But Lipp, I'm sure, had issues there as he came around the very long turn 7, which is sort of, that whole section's really just turn 7, as per the track map. But you saw the smoke, the tyre marks on the road. I reckon he had to lock it up so as not to spin all the way around. Let's see if I'm right or not. Through this first right-hander, it was fine. On the grass, there you go. Oh, wow. He had to lock it up just to save it, and a bit of a squeeze for Simoes, but he got through.
Yeah, I think Simoes had to take a big breath in to make sure he could fit that car in between that slowing machine of Sebastian Lipp and the inside of the racetrack. It's a saving grace for Simoes because with that moment heading off to the turn 5 chicane a few moments beforehand, don't really think he was able to make up that time on the road with the amount of time left to go here in this race, but it's reignited this fight. That is a typical thing that you have to do here in these SR10s. If that back end gets a little bit squirrely, just lock up the front tires. It's going to swoop back around and you'll be all right. I mean, the bad news would be that the front end of your car, the tires will get turned into rectangles, but you know, you got to take with the yin with the yang.
Looking back from Felix Simoes, you get the feeling he might be on borrowed time, but has he borrowed enough time here towards the end of this race to keep Sebastian Lipp behind him after that mistake? And one of his teammates here, George Gonzaga, who's going to try and take this off of Gordon Haug as well. He's really lost a bit of time since being passed by Paki Caruso. This is going to be a narrow battle for 6th place very soon. Gonzaga here is just looking on the way down towards turn number 1. A little bit off into the gravel for Hogg. A look again from Gonzaga, no way through. He's only got 3 laps to do this, so they've got to start thinking about this quite quickly now.
Something happened to Gordon Haug. You can see on the left-hand side of the race car damage on it. That is some pretty significant side pod damage. These SR10s, even though this isn't the quickest racetrack in the world, a bit of damage like that can feel like you're dragging a parachute. That's the reason why George Gonzaga is even thinking about going for a move like that down the straightaway, off into turn 5. He has to back out of it. Gordon Haug with the stones to be able to hold off on that spot. We'll say Kim Andre and Björklund, he's had a moment of his own. Packy Caruso's moved up into 4th, and his teammate right there, Gordon Haug's teammate of Björklund, is right in front. Not sure whether he has a slowdown. He is still slow. So he has his way off through the top end of the circuit. Just was going to say that Gordon Haug last time by sat 127.4, which compared to everybody else running the opposite 124.7s, something bad happened to the number 15 last time by, and it looks like that same ailment hit his teammate on this lap.
Yeah, well spotted, by the way, for Gordon Haug. I didn't see the damage first time round, but he certainly seemed to be having that parachute effect on the back straight. But for now, he's sternly defending George Gonzaga and doing a good job of defending he is as well. So this is going to be interesting. Last 2 laps of the race, and not seen too many on-track overtakes just yet in this race. It's been all about mistakes and capitalising on those. Now, I'm sure there's going to be maybe one more left in this race with a couple of laps to go. We've got a number of battles to watch at the top and the bottom of your screen, but maybe there'll be a legitimate pass as well for George Gonzaga here. And maybe for Adrian Rostang, actually, has got himself past Felix Simoes, who again is slipping through the field. Because Larson will be next in line to try and do the same. Down towards the chicane, and no chance for Gonzaga this time round. He's on the penultimate lap though, and that's a better run. A little bit of a bubble there over the curve for Hogg, as there's a small look there down the inside from Simoes, trying to regain that place over Adrian Rostang for 8th place, or 9th place rather, but he couldn't make that work either.
As that battle is going to continue to flare up with Rostang looping it nearly as he heads his way off through the chicane. Had a pretty significant lockup. Again, these SR10s do not have ABS, so these drivers have to flutter that brake pedal every single opportunity. Here comes a move, though. Samoa's going for the dive. That's not going to work. Contact being made. Around goes Rostang, and that Samoa is dropping down like a stone as well. That'll break all those drivers right behind up into the top 10, with the exception of just a few. As we jump back to this battle, that's George Gonzaga looking to get moved on Gordon Haug. Clearly the damage on that number 15 race car still just slowing him big time through the straights. Gonzaga clears him into turn number 1, and to touch on what happened with both of the Sim Racing Norway teammates as we are on the final lap here, we'll note it was Gordon Haug looping it through the through turn number 5, through that chicane, hit the wall on the outside. That's why he picked up the damage on the left hand side. Bad curb wax for him. Same can be said about Kim Andre and Björklund, had a half spin as he added his way out of 5 the lap later. And I think we'll actually load up the replay to see what happened to Björklund. Yeah, you can see bad curb wax, horrible curb wax even.
Yeah, it's too hard over the curves that you can't get away with that. This is Jared Dunkovic's issue. Not long before that, actually. Maybe it was the same lap, just a little bit later. Oh, a little bit less over the curves, but still the same spin as he got onto the power and ended up on the inside of the circuit. But meantime, Christoph Lipp is coming into the final chicanes. This has been the most dominant performance we've seen this season, certainly one of. As he comes towards the line here at Zolder, Christoph Lipp takes a comfortable victory. Nearly 6 seconds. In fact, it might be 6 seconds. It will be by the end of the day. What a drive from Christoph Lipp that is. An absolute display of dominance from beginning to end. 6 seconds in legitimate pace, because Barry wasn't battling for much of that race at all. He was just outclassed in this one by his teammate Christoph Lipp with a comfortable win.
Yeah, and it's his 2nd win in a row in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races after the first half of the season with all different winners. The streak ends at 6th. Lipp putting on a dominant drive here. And not only is it the first multi-time winner from these 2100 GMT broadcasted races this season, he does it back-to-back in comfortable and dominating fashion as well. Christoph Lipp with a brilliant drive here at Zolder today.
Absolutely. 6 seconds is winning margin at the line with James Barry just massaging his championship lead maybe at the end of today. Andre Caruso alongside him on the podium in that number 1 car. Good drive through the field from him. Good recovery from Paki Caruso to get to 4th as well after his spin with James Barry earlier on. Kim-Andrik Bjorklund recovered from a spin of his own to finish in the top 5 ahead of George Gonzaga, who got past Gordon Haag at the line. Sebastian Lipp wasn't far away from getting involved with those two as well. Catil Larson beat that group for 9th ahead of Maurizio Scotti Diuccio, who rounded out the top 10 after making places in that race as well. 11th place went to Peter Evigny with Adrian Rostang and Philip Simoes 12th and 13th after they're coming together. Jared Dunkovic's late spin got him down to 14th, and Ian Bertolucci unfortunately down to 15th after retiring from the race very, very early on. Let's have a chat then to Christoph Lipp, our race winner here tonight from Zolder. And congratulations, Christoph, on a completely dominant display, I've got to say. I mean, the pace you showed there was by far and away the best in the field. Was that what you were expecting coming into this round of the championship?
I did not have any idea how fast some other guys would be. Andre, for example, I didn't know, I haven't seen the week, and so I was a bit surprised.
What was the key to being fast around here? We talk often in the commentary box about this circuit being very unique, very strange in some ways. The curbs are a big thing, but what about from a driver's perspective? What are the keys to being fast around here?
I think here you have to take some risk. I would say a bit more risk than on other tracks to be fast, and you have to focus almost in every turn. You have to focus on the exit. This is very important, and then you can get good lap times.
Absolutely. Congratulations on achieving that here tonight and taking the race victory from Zolder. And thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the night as well.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much. Christoph Lipp there, the race winner, joining us just briefly after the race. James Barry has also popped himself in. Very nice timing from him. We can chat to James as well. Congratulations, James. 2nd place here for you today. First question, I guess. I probably know the answer. Was there anything you could have done to maybe stay with Christoph Lipp or compete with him here in this race?
Yeah, be a better driver. It's a tough track. I'm happy with what I did. I had decent pace. Christoph excels at tracks like these where you have these chicanes that really upset the balance of the car, and it's something that I've had to work on. I remember at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, he was like insanely fast, like because he rode the curbs so well, and I had to start learning how to try and do that myself, and I did a decent job this week. I know his brother Sebastian was also very fast, and he, I guess, messed up his qualifying, so that was also a bit of a relief, I suppose, to be able to get P2 in the end without too much challenge from behind.
What did you make of the incidents that were going on throughout that race? Paki Caruso got to the back of you, spun by hitting the back of you, which I don't think you would have known much about or were at fault for either. And Andre Castro was quite close to you at stages as well. What did you make of the wheel-to-wheel racing you had, especially in the early part of this race?
Well, from what I saw, it was Paki kind of got so close to me. He came from so far back, so fair play. He was much later on the brakes, but then he just drove into the back of me, and you know what racing's like. You have a tiny bit of contact and it spins you around, so here's what it is. It's a shame that happened because he had a lot of confidence behind me and he would have really challenged me. And then Andre was clearly just trying to push to catch me and made a mistake that we've all made on that chicane, going over the sausage curbs, and yeah, you're at the mercy of those curbs when you touch them. So I was just trying to stay calm and avoid any incidents, and I'm glad I did that.
Well, congratulations on doing that and getting 2nd place here tonight. And thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks a lot for the broadcast. Bye.
Thanks very much, James Barry, the 2nd place driver here today, ahead of Andre Castro, who can also join us as well. Andre, welcome in. 3rd place. Congratulations on a podium here tonight from Zolder. I've got to say, though, you seem to have pace that maybe would have got you 2nd place, if not better, here today. Would you agree with that? And what was the reason you started a bit further down the field?
Yeah, I was actually pretty happy with how it ended up, just because, I think sometimes, I got too complacent and only did like 17 minutes of practice right before the race, like 10 minutes. So it was just, everywhere was kind of a guessing game as to where I could brake and how much speed I could carry. And I felt like I had no chance, in qualifying. That was just my true pace. And then just kind of picked him off being smart and kind of learned the track a bit more. And towards the end of the race, I didn't have anything. I was like at least 4/10 off Christoph and James. So, I mean, if I could have stayed in James's toe, maybe I could have challenged him. But he was quick, and I like flew over the first chicane one time and just lost a couple seconds. So after that, it was pretty much it. But starting 8th, not really doing much practice. I just I'm pretty happy with it. So probably more happy with that than I've been with any 3rd place before in this series.
Well, yeah, I can imagine so. What was the key to working your way through the field here? Because in terms of actual overtaking on circuit, it was quite difficult tonight. You generally had to wait for somebody to make a mistake. But what was your key to getting through the field in the way that you did?
A lot of it was just lap 1. I mean, in turn 1, I think I got 2 guys, and then going to the first chicane, I got someone else. So that was already top 5, and someone went off in turn 1 on lap 2. So by the start of lap 2, I was 4th, and after that, just kind of kept in there and caught up to Packy and James, and Packy made a mistake. So that's kind of a lot of it was just first lap stuff, and then other people making mistakes.
Congratulations on capitalising on those, getting that podium place here tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Andre Castro, the 3rd place driver here at the end of the round at Zolder, the 7th round of the Radical Esports Cup in Season 3 of 2025 run. Next week, we are at Suzuka in the 2100 GMT broadcasted split. So different here to Zolder, but we're on the home straight now, as it were, or at least we're on the turn back round. We're coming back for home. This is the second half of the season, and Suzuka and Fuji to come in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of a Japanese sweep going on for the next 2 weeks. Suzuka and Fuji, though, both staples of this championship. Suzuka, it's been around on pretty much every single season's calendar, with maybe a couple of exceptions for quite some time. Fuji, it's been a little while since I saw the SR10s heading off through there, but that start-finish straightaway, that massive start-finish straightaway, I can't even imagine what kind of overtakes we're going to see heading down into turn number 1 there. So absolutely fantastic racing to look forward to. And of course, Suzuka next time out. These cars always put on good show, and Suzuka last season put on a banger. So I have a feeling we're going to be in the mood for another banger on August the 8th when the series returns here to iRacing and RaceSpotTV.
Absolutely. Same place, same time, 7 days' time. We will be back again for the next round of the Radical Esports Cup. Make sure you join us then. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds, with Romero Augustins is now us behind the cameras here tonight. We'll see you in 7 days' time at Suzuka. From all of us here from Zolder, it's goodbye for now.